In a small village nestled between rolling hills, there lived two sisters. The older sister, Amina, was everything the villagers admired: beautiful, graceful, and adored by all. Her marriage to a wealthy and kind-hearted man only seemed to confirm her place as the village's shining star. Amina's life was an endless celebration, filled with laughter, love, and success. But her younger sister, Nia, watched from the shadows, consumed by envy. Nia was plain in comparison, her life marked by struggle and dissatisfaction. No matter how hard she worked, she could never escape the feeling that something was always slipping from her grasp. The more she saw Amina's joy, the sharper the pain in her heart became. Nia longed for her sister's beauty, the love she shared with her husband, and the respect she commanded in the village. As the days went by, her bitterness deepened. Each smile Amina received felt like a slap in the face, each compliment a reminder of what Nia could never have. A twisted thought began to grow in Nia's mind: if only Amina's life could be mine. She imagined herself taking Amina's place, living the life she dreamed of. And soon, that thought became an obsession. The dark whispers of envy crept in, feeding the anger and longing that threatened to consume her entirely. Nia, once content with her quiet existence, now found herself haunted by a relentless desire, a desire that would soon drive her to make a choice that would change everything. Desperation led Nia deeper into the forest, to the edges of the village where whispers of an ancient sorcerer's hut lingered. It was said that the old woman, known only as Zuri, possessed unimaginable power, capable of granting wishes beyond the comprehension of common folk. The villagers spoke of her in hushed tones, warning one another to stay away, for those who sought her help often paid a price far greater than they bargained for. But Nia, driven by her unchecked envy, ignored the warnings. She could no longer bear the suffocating weight of her dissatisfaction. She needed a change, she needed to be free of the life she despised. The thought of Amina's perfect existence consumed her mind as she ventured into the dark woods, where the air was thick with the scent of earth and magic. When Nia finally found the hut, it stood cloaked in shadow, its crooked windows glowing with a strange, flickering light. She knocked, her heart racing, and the door creaked open, revealing Zuri, a figure wrapped in tattered robes, her eyes glinting with ancient wisdom. "I've come for help," Nia whispered, her voice trembling. "I want to take my sister's life. I want her beauty, her wealth, and her happiness. I will give anything in return." Zuri's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a knowing smile. "Such a request is not made lightly," she said, her voice like the rustle of dead leaves. "Fate is delicate. You cannot simply take what belongs to another without consequences. What you ask for cannot be undone once it is done." But Nia's longing was blinding. She had no time for caution. "I don't care about the cost. I want her life. Please, grant me this one wish." Zuri paused, her gaze piercing into Nia's soul. "Very well," the witch said, her voice heavy with the weight of fate. "The price will be steep, but you shall have what you desire. Your sister's life will become yours, but in return, you will inherit not just her joys, but her burdens as well." Nia, too eager to understand the depth of the warning, nodded quickly. "I accept." With a slow, deliberate movement, Zuri extended her hand. Nia reached out, feeling the cold energy crackle between them as their pact was sealed. As the witch's final words echoed in the air, "Remember, you cannot escape the cost of your desire," Nia felt a strange sensation wash over her, as if the world had shifted. She was filled with a sense of triumph, certain that soon she would wake up in her sister's life, surrounded by the wealth and admiration she had always dreamed of. She left Zuri's hut with renewed purpose, not knowing that she had just sealed her fate, a fate that would come to haunt her in ways she could never have imagined. When Nia awoke, the world around her felt strange, unfamiliar yet comforting. The morning light streamed through the windows of a lavish room she knew all too well, but it wasn't hers. It was her sister's room, filled with elegant furniture, expensive fabrics, and delicate decorations. The soft sheets she lay on were the same ones Amina had always slept in. At first, Nia felt a rush of joy. She was in Amina's life, living the way she had always dreamed. Her sister's beauty, wealth, and comfort were now hers to enjoy. She stepped out of bed, her reflection in the mirror showing a face that was no longer her own, yet it was. She looked exactly like Amina. The skin, the eyes, the smile, it all seemed perfect. For the first few days, Nia reveled in the luxury of her new life. She wore the finest clothes, dined at the grand table, and enjoyed the company of the village's most respected people. She played the role of Amina flawlessly, basking in the love and admiration that came so naturally to her sister. The life she had always envied was now within her grasp, and it felt like a dream come true. But as the days passed, an unsettling feeling began to creep in. The first odd thing happened when Nia tried to eat her breakfast. She suddenly felt nauseous, as if something in the food didn't sit right with her. It was subtle at first, easy to dismiss, but soon enough, strange occurrences piled up. The once smooth rhythm of Amina's life became disjointed and unnerving. Nia heard whispers in the corners of rooms where no one stood. Objects she didn't remember touching would be out of place. And sometimes, late at night, she could feel a heavy presence in the room, as if she were being watched by unseen eyes. Still, she brushed these feelings aside. After all, this was the life she had wanted. But something didn't feel right, nothing felt like it was truly hers. It didn't take long for the people in the village to notice the changes. Nia's behavior, while still convincing on the surface, was off in subtle ways. Amina had always been warm, kind, and effortlessly charming. Nia, however, found herself growing impatient, short-tempered, and distant. Her laugh sounded hollow, her smile forced. When she greeted the villagers, her words lacked the warmth they were used to. They began to whisper among themselves, wondering what had happened to the woman they once knew. At first, they attributed the changes to simple exhaustion or stress. After all, Amina had been through a lot recently: marriage, family matters, the weight of her responsibilities. But as time went on, the unease grew. The villagers couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, even if they couldn't put their fingers on it. Nia, however, was still too caught up in her newfound life to fully acknowledge the growing discomfort. She continued to live in Amina's house, wearing her clothes, enjoying her wealth, all while an invisible weight pressed on her chest. The luxury she once dreamed of was no longer enough to silence the eerie feeling that something far darker had taken root in her life. But she refused to admit it, convinced that she was simply adjusting to her new reality. Little did she know, the truth was much more sinister than she could ever imagine. The life she had taken was not just Amina's, it was a life bound by curses, unseen forces, and a fate she could never escape. As days turned into weeks, the illusion of perfection began to crumble. Nia woke one morning to find her reflection in the mirror distorted, her once beautiful face now marred by pale skin and deep shadows under her eyes. The beauty she had so eagerly sought was fading, replaced by an unsettling, hollow appearance. Her hair, once thick and lustrous like Amina's, now looked brittle and lifeless, falling in clumps as she ran her fingers through it. Terrifying visions began to haunt her, nightmares that bled into reality. She would catch glimpses of shadowy figures in the corners of her vision, lurking in the dark spaces of the house. At night, strange whispers filled the air, the voices of people she could not see. Her dreams were no longer peaceful, instead, they were filled with images of her sister, Amina, pleading for help, her face twisted in agony. Nia would wake in cold sweats, heart racing, unable to shake the feeling that something dark had attached itself to her, something she couldn't escape. Her once promising life now seemed to be slipping through her fingers. One morning, she awoke to find her wedding ring, Amina's wedding ring, missing. Panic set in as she searched the house, but it was nowhere to be found. Every corner she turned, every room she searched, brought a new sense of dread. It felt as though the house itself was alive, shifting, watching her every move. The bad luck didn't stop there. She began to lose money in investments, her crops withered, and business deals she'd once handled effortlessly fell apart. The community that once embraced Amina now started to turn away from her. Neighbors grew cold, friends no longer sought her company. They whispered behind her back, speaking of how different she had become, how cruel, how distant. The warmth that had once surrounded Amina had vanished, replaced by a palpable chill. The sickness that took hold of Nia was no less subtle. Her body, once vibrant, now ached constantly. She grew pale and weak, her strength ebbing away with each passing day. She was plagued by migraines, dizzy spells, and a deep, gnawing exhaustion that no amount of rest could cure. It was as though the very essence of life had drained from her, leaving her a hollow shell of the woman she had once been. As the curse tightened its grip, Nia began to understand the truth. She had not just stolen her sister's life. She had inherited the dark secret that had kept Amina's world intact. Amina's life had not been charmed by luck or divine favor, but by a hidden curse. The beauty, the wealth, the love, it had all come at a terrible price. It was a price that Nia had now unknowingly paid. Each day, as the curse took hold more deeply, she found herself questioning if the life she had dreamed of was truly worth the cost. What was the point of wealth and beauty if it came with such a price? What was the point of living a life that felt more like a prison with each passing moment? The guilt that weighed on her grew unbearable, and with it, the sense of dread that she had made an irreversible mistake. The life she had stolen was slipping away, leaving her with nothing but the relentless grip of the curse. Nia was no longer the woman who had dreamed of Amina's life. She was a broken soul, caught in the web of fate she had so carelessly disrupted. And as the darkness consumed her, she began to realize that there was no escape, not from the curse, and not from the consequences of her greed. Nia could no longer bear the weight of the curse that had consumed her life. Desperation drove her back to the forest, to the place where it all began. The old, crumbling hut of the witch, Zuri. The air was thick with the scent of decay as she approached, her steps slow and unsteady, weighed down by the years of torment she had endured since making her fateful decision. She knocked at the door, but this time, there was no sense of hope or ambition in her heart, only the hollow ache of regret. Zuri appeared as if she had been waiting for her, her eyes gleaming with a knowing sadness, as though she had seen this moment unfold long before Nia had even set foot on her doorstep. "I've made a mistake," Nia whispered, her voice broken. "Please, undo it. Undo everything. Take this curse away. I can't live like this anymore." Zuri's gaze never wavered. "You cannot undo what has been done, Nia," the witch said, her voice low and sorrowful. "The pact you made cannot be reversed. Fate cannot be tampered with without cost, and now you are paying it." Nia fell to her knees, her heart aching as the reality of her situation crushed her. She had thought that she could take her sister's life and leave her old one behind, assumed she could have it all without consequence. But now, she understood. Amina's life had not been perfect, nor had it been free of its own darkness. But it was a life, and it was hers, and Nia had stolen it, along with all the pain that came with it. "Why didn't you warn me?" Nia sobbed. "You said there would be consequences, but I couldn't know. I couldn't have known it would be like this." Zuri looked at her with a mixture of pity and resignation. "I warned you, but your desire was too great to hear. You wanted her life, and you took it. Now, you must live with what you have done." The witch's words were like a sharp sting, a cruel reminder of the irreversible path Nia had chosen. There was no redemption for her. There was no way back. The curse that had marked Amina's life had now settled onto Nia, consuming her in ways she had never imagined. Her beauty had withered, her health was gone, and the people she once knew had turned their backs on her. The villagers no longer recognized her as Amina they had seen through the deception long ago. They avoided her, whispered in hushed tones, and no longer offered the kindness they once had. Her marriage, once filled with love and affection, had crumbled into resentment and bitterness. Even her own body, which she had once used to secure her place in Amina's world, betrayed her, failing her in every way. The woman who had once dreamed of a life of luxury, beauty, and love was now nothing more than a hollow shell, an empty reflection of the woman she had stolen from. And as she sat in the darkness of her empty house, Nia realized that everything she had wanted had been nothing but a fleeting illusion. In the end, there was no escape from the consequences of her choices. The curse would remain with her for the rest of her life, forever entwined with the life she had stolen. And as she spent her days in solitude, isolated from the world, the weight of her regret became the only companion she had left. She had destroyed her sister's life and her own, all for the sake of envy and greed. The cost of her desires had been too great to bear, and now she was left to live with the painful, eternal reminder of what she had lost. The story ends with Nia, a shadow of the woman she once was, isolated in her cursed existence, forever regretting her choices and the life she had destroyed.